Hey everybody, welcome back to the 7 Billion Geniuses conversation and our further explorations into the idea of the present and explicit. And I want to tell you something. This morning I was sitting out here, as I generally do, and I was listening to the birds that you can still hear, and it occurred to me that, those birds, as they're singing their songs, are being honest. And then I wondered, are they telling the truth? I wondered, and then I realized that there's the truth and being honest aren't really the same thing, and that there's an important distinction between the two. That honesty is really about something that I do. It's a choice I make, and in my way of thinking, it's a position that I take, a position of honesty. Truth is about knowing something, and can certainly know something about myself, but this whole question of my truth, your truth, whose truth, one's own truth, it's very vague and ultimately problematic, and I think can completely be avoided by this notion of honesty, which as far as I'm concerned, is really more about choices that I make in the context of the position that I take in relation to me. And when I say that, what I'm talking about is really concretely, and I actually did this, really concretely making a choice to be honest with myself as a practice, as a way of being. And it's not easy, and I often fail. But the things that I talk about aren't necessarily true. I don't think you could define the things that I talk about as true. But they're certainly honest in the context of where I am in that moment when I'm saying those things that I'm saying, and I think that's part of it too. The thing about a position is that it's not some absolute. It's about where I am and what's going on then, and what I know and who I am, and from that place I speak from an honest position, as opposed to some kind of objective truth that's ever being and never changing and constantly true. And I find that idea problematic. I don't mean to say that nothing's true, because that'd be silly. But I do mean to say that truth is something that's complicated, and in some ways way too complicated. I thought about you put your hand on the Bible and you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God, and what a ridiculous idea that is, because ultimately what really is important is that the person up on the stand be honest, and it's not part of what you're signing up for when you swear to tell the truth. And it's interesting that that's sort of the central tenet in our criminal justice system, is this notion of truth, and there's not a lot of talk about honesty. And so then back to the present and explicit, and again, the focus on the present, that my practice, I could easily, literally say something, especially these days, that I believe is true because people have thought it's, like, for example, Scientific American this week, and this is actually in my post for today, if you want to check that on the Twitter and Tumblr and feed and Facebook and my blogs and my Reverb Nation page, and kind of all over the place. But Scientific American this for July or June, which is interesting since it's May. That's a whole other story. Speaking of truth, there was an article on lichen. And apparently there's a lot of information that's been gathered and looked at and analyzed and currently being understood to suggest that a unit of life shouldn't be understood to be an individual anymore. That a unit of life should be understood to be a network, an interrelationship, not a single entity. And so 2 months ago, if I would have said that an atom is a singular thing, and to understand an atom as a singular thing, It's perfectly reasonable and makes sense. Science would have backed me up. Today, that would have been a lie, untrue. However, at the time, I would have been being honest. And so that's the kind of honesty that I'm talking about, and how it is in relation to position. A practice of honesty, at least the practice of honesty that I take up, is in fact simply about my doing the best to speak in an honest way with the information that I have at the time, and to give myself permission to have that not be the best, looking backwards. And when I find myself looking backwards, coming back into where I am now. And so then we're back to this notion of presence. So today I'm thinking about this idea of honesty and the practice of honesty as a practice that contributes to the notion of presence and contributes to the notion of being explicit in those present moments. So thanks for listening, and hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are. And check out my contacts at the end of the video. Please be in touch and let me know what you think of these videos and what you're thinking about. And if there's anything I can do to contribute to your life, let me know. And so that's it for today and this week, and I'll talk to you next week. And please do stay in touch.